And honestly, like, this is so funny. Like you're like, oh, I start with boundaries. I always start with boundaries. And I didn't get it, Robin, still, like until this year.
Yeah.
Until that realization, because I was like, oh, because the boundaries are all about honoring yourself and allowing yourself to have all the emotions. And I was very stuck, right? And so, like I had to protect myself, and I've learned to do that in a healthy way. And like just to make sure that I continue to do that. And once you feel that, you can't go back.
Welcome to Grow with Robin Breckenridge, a podcast about stepping into the most fully expressed, aligned, and conscious version of yourself. Here, we dive into the real work of personal growth, establishing boundaries, understanding your patterns, building self-trust, healing emotional wounds, and creating relationships that feel safe, authentic, and fulfilling. I'm Robin, a life and relationship coach, and in each episode, we'll explore the tools, insights, and conversations that will help you not just improve your life and relationships, but truly transform them. You don't have to just go through it. Let's grow through it, and let's do it together. Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Grow with Robin Breckenridge. Today's episode is very special for me. I'm joined by someone who has not only become a dear friend and client in my life, but also who I've had the honor of coaching and witnessing on a deeply personal level. And her name is Shilpa Shah. Shilpa Shah, here, now we're going to brag about Shilpa, is the co-founder of Kuyana, a fashion brand rooted in quality, sustainability, and intentional design, which I still need to get one of those bags that I've heard so much about. With over 20 years of experience in tech, product strategy, and user experience, she's led creative work for companies like Walt Disney and beyond. She's also a founding member of Colibri, close.
Well done.
Okay, Collective, an organization formed in response to the devastating fires in Altadena and Pasadena, which is focused on rebuilding community with love, respect, and action. Shilpa is a mom, partner, daughter, and one of the most grounded, wholehearted friends you could ever have. And I know that firsthand and from witnessing it. So Shilpa isn't here today as an expert or strategist. She's here because she's lived the work. She's done the brave, nonlinear, deeply human process of reclaiming her self-worth and stepping into her voice through boundary work and so much more. Like I said, she's a mother, a creative, an entrepreneur, a philanthropist, and someone who holds one of the biggest, most inclusive hearts I've ever known. And here we go. Like I'm already getting emotional.
Oh, Robin, thank you. Wow. Can you write my bio?
Yes,
always?
Anytime. I would be honored. In our conversation, we are going to explore what it's like to live without boundaries and how often that keeps us stuck in the one down, that place where our worth feels dependent on how much we give or how much we're needed. We're going to talk about the subtle and not so subtle power dynamics that play out when we're disconnected from our inherent value. And we're going to explore what it looks like to reclaim your peace in the world by honoring your energy, your needs, and your authentic yes and no. I already know this conversation is going to be honest, soulful, and I think it's going to resonate with everyone who's ever struggled with people pleasing, overfunctioning, or forgetting themselves in the pursuit of love, success, or approval. So let's get into it, Shilpa. I think a great place to start, because I love this little story, is kind of tell us a little bit about where you were in your life when you and I first met.
Absolutely. And Robin, thank you. It is an honor to be on this incredible podcast. And I know you don't love to hear this, but I want everyone to know that you've changed my life. And I think that's the way I will dovetail into your question, because I was in a never-ending cycle of repeating the same patterns, my entire life. And I was in a moment where I had the opportunity to pause. I was on leave of absence for the second time for personal reasons from Guyana. And I was coming towards the end of that leave, and I just didn't want to go back the same. And so I reached out to two friends that we share in common, and I asked them, I didn't ask them for a coach. I didn't ask them for that type of specific request, I asked them, I said, you guys have both done so much work on yourselves, and you've been so gracious in sharing that work. Minka, you've had on the show already, another dear friend, Katira. And I said, what are the 1 to 2? I got time for 1 to 2 things that you found most transformative. And Minka wrote back and said, Robin Breckenridge. Like, was her comment. And I was like, okay, that's very specific. And so I was like, and then I was at breakfast with Katira, and she's like, and she's had, like so many great friends and coaches. She does this work. She travels to trauma retreats. Mm-hmm. And she said the same. She's like, that is an excellent suggestion. I've had nothing but incredible conversations with this woman. I think you should call her. And so I actually left that breakfast, and we had our consulting call. And I'll never forget, because I was sitting in the car outside of Katira's house when we talked. And in the first 15 minutes, you were very honest. You said you were very full, but you took the call anyway. And I was like, how do I get more of this woman? Like, I want to have hours and hours of conversation. I knew right away that it was right. I think the energy connected with me. And I just knew I was going to start in that moment with that call. And as soon as you made room for me, which, like, thank the universe for that. Like, I knew it was the beginning of a transformative journey that has benefited everyone in my life.
Yeah. I love that story because, first of all, I love Minka and Katira, and I love that they're spreading the light as well of like things that helped them. But I was very full when you called, and I have learned to trust this intuitive knowing in me, even if it doesn't fully make sense in my life, or I'm like, oh, I'm full, and I can't remember if like I think you texted me. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh no, I can't take her. And then the intuitive knowing kicked in and said, like, you're supposed to know her and you're going to know her deeply. And then we hopped on that quick call, and I was like, no, this is it. And one of the things, because like I'm very intentional about that first call. Like, I don't do it over Zoom so that I just hear your energy and your patterns, and I don't like get distracted with anything else. But one thing that I remember from that call was I was like, ooh, girl needs boundaries. Like, we're going to start right there, which sometimes like I take people in kind of a different approach. And I was like, we're going to hit the ground running. So it leads me to my first question. And like, I'm also so grateful to the universe that we found each other, because you are such a gift to my life, and being witness to your story has been such a gift to my life. And I think we are going to know each other forever. Like, that just feels like a strong knowing too. But tell me about like the version of you who didn't have strong boundaries, and what was that like for her? Because I know you do now.
Yeah, no, I definitely do. And it's interesting as you were describing kind of the topics we're gonna go through, and over functioning, hypervigilance, trying harder, like all of those things is where I was. And now I don't even necessarily recognize that girl. And so I had, what I've come to, like name now that you've helped me name, I have a very, very deep not enough wound. And growing up Indian in a South Asian traditional household, right? Like circa 1972 when my mom immigrated, or maybe a little later, sorry. But like a woman's role is to compromise and to please. And I was not that girl. I was born feisty and aggressive and assertive and strong and stubborn and everything that terrified her about, that's not what a submissive Indian wife looks like. And that's kind of what we were supposed to be. That's what we were being groomed for. And so I grew up feeling like I just didn't belong where I was. And, and I was surprised when I would tell the truth about things and get punished for it, or, like all of these things. And so over time, I just really would, instead of being like, oh, okay, this is not for you, or be kind to myself and remove myself from a situation, I would just try harder. I would say it more emphatically. I would be more assertive, right? I would go above and beyond, be extra, you know, and especially in roles of conflict, like it literally gives me like chills now to think, but I would be like the one who would like hammer call after, right? Like, you know, or send 15 text messages, right? Yeah. Cause, you know, if I felt like I could have done something better, I'm going over it over again. Yeah. and I realized that the biggest, I mean, and this is what the work has taught me, the biggest boundary was to protect myself, right? Like that I needed to be good to me. And I didn't have, for someone like that's so eye-opening, I just didn't have self-value that way. I was never taught that.
Sure. And I mean, we've talked about this with other guests, but like, I know that hypervigilance, which means that you're altering your behavior to control an outcome, is not a bad skill set to have on board. But I know for myself, it's one of the most exhausting. Like it takes so much work to be that hypervigilant. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking for you, like culturally, that like authenticity wasn't maybe like a luxury that you had available to you to fit into like cultural norms and dynamics. So to me, that feels like, man, we talk about like breaking generational trauma. That is like lineage of I mean, like, you know, for you to step out in your authenticity as a woman, and also like we've talked about before, also still be a part of the traditions of your culture. Like, I know you're an amazing cook. You've made me chai. I no longer called chai tea because of you.
Thank you.
Because of tea, and that doesn't make any sense. But like, to find this middle that is your authenticity of like, I can be this authentic version of me, which is a very powerful female energy, and also be a part of the traditions that I love.
And that was something that was just also very eye-opening. Like when you first presented the triangle and all the levels to me, and I could hear inside my head, you know, the voice saying like, oh yeah, this is not for you. Like, this is a Western approach. This is, you know, like, you don't like, what am I supposed to say no to my mom? Like, how does that work? And I think you always like intuitively feel what someone is thinking before, like, or what they're like reacting to before we say it out loud. And you said, Shilpa, the goal of this work is not, I don't ever want to do work that disconnects you from the people you love. Mm-mm. Like, this is actually going to let you love them better, and in the way that you actually honor yourself so that they can love you better. And I felt a huge, immense relief. Okay, yeah, that's the goal. Because, you know, as South Asians, like, we grew up hearing how therapy just blames the family, right? Like, that's why talk therapy is bad. It blames the family. Your problems are elsewhere, and it splits up parents from their kids. Like, that's the impression. And so, you know, of course I was hearing that voice. If the first thing you're doing is like, you're moving your mom from a situation where she's supposed to be the singular person you trust, or your dad or your brother, like into a category where you're like, okay, this is a different way of approaching life. And I can, you know, like, not to, like, I think it's, you guys are listening to this podcast, so, you know, to let the cat out of the bag, like, it works. Like, they do love me better. I do love them better. Right. So that, like, it actually did bring us closer.
I'm so glad that you're bringing that part up, because I think it's true for everybody. Like, boundary work does feel like disconnection at first, and sometimes betrayal.
Yeah.
Right? Like betrayal of the family, of a certain person in your life. But really all we're talking about is reconnecting to you. Yep. Right? So like, the way that I language it is, sometimes we have to like disconnect to reconnect. Mm-hmm. It's not disconnect and stay disconnected. It's disconnect, reconnect with you, and then come back into these relationships with this connection to yourself.
Yeah, and if you're connected incorrectly to begin with, how is that going to flow energy?
No, I mean, what you'll end up doing is either prioritizing the connection or the protection, which feels isolating and alone and misunderstood and not good enough, right? So I love that you're like a living example. And this is why I'm so blessed to have you guys come on. that says like, yeah, I didn't believe this or I didn't trust it, which is so fair because my definition of trust is data over time. You shouldn't look at a pyramid and be like, you got to try it on for size. And you're someone who's now worn it for what, a year and a half?
At least a year. I think that first half of the year. Yeah. I mean, we've been working together a year and a half. I think I finally have like sat with it and soaked it in a year. Like I think the first 6 months was just me trying to understand this new way of languaging things. But it started to work in small ways immediately now when I look back retrospectively. And I remember you saying this to me, which also didn't make sense until recently, because awareness dawns after, is that, like I was a new version of me and that was going to take some time to like get to know and to navigate. And I was like, I don't know exactly what that means, but it's true. I feel like, I started this journey and I totally transformed. And it was something that took me a while to get accustomed to.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, as someone who witnessed your journey, every single session, even in the beginning, I saw change. But you bring up a great point that like part of behavioral change, the first step is awareness.
Yeah.
Where we're just almost like deprogramming
everything to be true. Yeah.
Right. Like from our family of origin, from our cultures, from the American culture. So I saw, just so you know, growth and I saw it in your action from the very beginning. I mean, you were and have been such a joy to work with, Shilpa, because you were like hungry and thirsty and ready. Which I think like when I find clients, because that's my story too, when someone's just like, okay, like I've been waiting for the thing that clicks, that allows me to shift my actions. Like you're saying, like interrupt these patterns, like let's go. And you were one of those people.
100%. I mean, when you taught me about protest behavior and how often, I mean, the patterns were coming from my teenager. And even like as you talk, I learned more nuances about all of that. It is either protection or connection, right? So I would go from desperately wanting to connect, like my inner child getting hurt somehow, and then my teenager raging as a result of that. And so that would be my pattern, right? And missing the fact that, oh, there's somewhere you got hurt. So this isn't actually your fault. And so like my whole life has been a pattern of all the blame coming back to me, right? Like it's your fault. It's your behavior. It's how you're acting. It's your tone. And I'm like, no, but something was wrong there. Like, are we missing, so there's like a lot of gaslighting happening, my whole life. And I didn't really fully understand that term. And now I can pick it up anywhere because I'm like, no, that's not your experience. Like, I'm going to trust your experience. Like, this is, trust yourself. And if you can't trust yourself, who can you trust? Which is the biggest thing. Right. So I had to really sit with that and process that and understand so many of those nuances that you've pointed out through time.
And it brings me back to like our first few sessions where I'm not even sure if we've ever really languaged it this way, but like you came to me as like, I'm the problem.
Yes.
And this kind of fight response within me is the problem, and it's not professional, and it's bringing me like guilt, and it feels like it's out of my integrity. And instead of judging it, we got curious with it. And I think it opened up like a whole new avenue for healing, which is not, that doesn't mean it's everybody else's fault. It means you can also take accountability, but realize that your nervous system was frickin' screaming at you. And I'm saying frickin' just in case.
Yeah.
Your son
Arav will listen to it.
Arav is the reason why I don't swear on the podcast anymore. The other day, I think I said, or was it SHIT? I spelled it. I was just like, Arav might be listening, who is one of my favorites. So
Arav is my 5-year-old son who's obsessed with Auntie Robin. So yes.
Robin is obsessed with also. And he is like the most starseed, special, angelic person I've ever known. But we'll talk about him another time. I could do a whole episode just on him.
Yeah.
I fell in love.
Likewise. And he knew from moment one. I mean, he's the energy magnet of all energy magnets.
He sure is. But you know, like you came in thinking and internalizing that you were the problem. And that
maybe that's why it like actually feels like it took a little longer than, because I thought I was going to transform my reaction to things, which I did, but that was the symptom, not the problem. And so it was like and you started from the beginning with me, because like we said, I had no boundaries. And so like to understand, okay, this is how you have to protect yourself. And you had to kind of convince me that I was worth protecting, which was also like a very hard, like, like that was something that was really hard to undo. That's generational trauma, right? Like, and so that was also like, it took some practice to self-love.
Well, and it's a part of both of our stories that we just so naturally were in that one down position in a power dynamic of one up, one down.
It felt more comfortable.
Absolutely. It's all we knew, right?
Mm-hmm.
Until the teenager would come out and get a little entitled and demand to be heard and seen and understood, right?
Yeah, I put myself there all the time. And then my pattern would emerge that I would be angry about it, right? Because it wasn't nice to myself. And so that, like, it would just keep on going back and forth. And what you've also taught me is that if you're in the one down, someone's in the one up, and you've put them there too. And so like 50% of that is your behavior. And so we only have control over what we can control. And so, like, so all of this started to like be like magical thinking for me. But then you went further and you're like, and there are tools. Like, let me teach you the curriculum. And I was like, oh my God, yes. Like, please tell me how. And so it was like just every week, just this magical hour where I would learn so much. Like, I was the ever diligent student. I don't know if you know, I take notes on everything. And it just, I could not wait. Like, I've been waiting for you for my whole life.
Oh my gosh. I mean, if that doesn't just make my life complete right there, my goodness. And you know what I love too about your story, Shilpa? Like, I started with this very impressive bio because you've done very impressive things. And that would indicate you did access power in your life. And at least in my story, like, I was really good at doing those type of things, like hitting marks or like making my life look pretty good from the outside. But internally, I was really struggling. And I love that we started with that bio, but then we went right into your humanness. So I think that like sometimes we can also put people in a one up based off of like their achievements or what they've done. And you're saying like, I created these things, I led these things, and yet I was still struggling with my own self-worth.
Yeah. And then, no, exactly right. And that's one of the most powerful meditations that's so simple that you've taught me to reframe my energy in any situation, right? One up or one down is all bad. And just like putting on my hand on my heart, and I was just saying same as, like, doesn't matter who else is in the room, you're same as, like. And so I teach that to other people. Like, there's no, all of that, the rest of it is nonsense. And if someone treats you that way, you don't have to be there. If you treat someone else that way, then you need to get back into your integrity. Right.
You know what's so cool? You just introduced a concept, because I wish I could like, you were one of those clients that I was like, oh my God, she's ready. Like, can I just download all of this to her right this second? But like, that's not how the universe has it work. And this podcast, I wish I could download everything, but we haven't done an episode on the one up, one down, which my favorite teacher in this particular modality or thought is Dr. Terry Real. He's who taught me. And he says in the one up, one down power dynamic, that the middle is same as, meaning that we all have intrinsic self-worth and nothing could be added to or subtracted from your worth, which means no one is better or less than you. And I have used that so many times when I've gotten on client calls with people like you and people who have done these big things or are on pedestals in life. And I, put my hand on my heart, or if it's on Zoom, I might put it on my stomach. And I'm just like, same as, and it just grounds my energy that like at the end of the day, and this is why I don't Google people when you guys call me. I don't get on calls like on my consults on Zoom, because I want to just get into your humanness, because I can help that. And you are like, I mean, it's so brave, Shilpa, that you would come on here and showcase your humanness, because I think that's what connects us the most.
100%. I mean, and what else are we here for but to connect with one another? Like that's the whole goal. And so I think you had to give me those concepts, Robin, like when I think back to the process, because if I didn't have self-worth at all, then how was I going to establish boundaries? Like who was I protecting? And so we had to kind of back up to, or like level up to teach other concepts in order for me to come back to boundaries or to even understand them.
Okay, so let's go back. I just completely went off all questions that I sent you because I had a feeling we were just going to chat. But my next question for you was, we've obviously talked about the one up, one down, where worth feels like something outside of you. What did that dynamic feel like from the inside?
It was constant self-criticism. It was constant, like, okay, like you're smart. Let's script this. Like, what are you doing? Look for these things. You have this feedback, this thing that's been written, this suggestion, right? Like I have I probably could write a 10 book series just on the feedback that's been given to me, whether it was invited or not invited, my whole life. And so it's like, but your brain just feels like, it's like, what about this? What about that? But did you do this? Did you hold your body this way? Was your tone okay? Was your face okay? Like, did you make eye contact? Did you do that? Like, how was your sitting? Was it your posture? Was it how you raised your, like, it's just like, and it was like I was just drowning in like, I'm the problem, fix the problem, fix the problem, fix the problem. And like, it's just your cortisol, your stress, like your nervous system, like none of it makes sense. You're not connected to your own gut. You can't follow your own instinct, even though you know what's right or wrong. You somehow aren't allowed to say it, and so that adds different conflict. So it was just noisy and messy, and I didn't want to be me. In a lot of ways.
And I love you. Before we hopped on, I'm like, let's just go be ourselves and see what happens. So I think what you're talking about is such a common behavioral, like trauma response of work harder.
Mm-hmm.
And I have that as well, and definitely had it before without any awareness. And I never crossed any finish line. Like I never felt good enough, smart enough, pretty enough, complete enough. So I think that, like, again, I think all patterns they're not all bad. Like, my goodness, look what you did
with that hypervigilance.
Oh my goodness, right? With that work harder, you went, and I watched you help how many families in Colibri?
739.
739 displaced people who lost their,
and the number of actual people is higher than that, right? So it's those are households. I actually just crunched the numbers, which made me very happy. It was 2,753 people.
My goodness. I mean, it's like we can harness these things to help us. Like you had that work harder piece to go and be of service of all those people, but also I watched you when you started that organization.
Yeah.
Consider, like, yes, I want to be of service, and I want to be connected to myself and take care of me.
Yeah.
And that was a different, like, to me, you are such an example of a conscious leader. And conscious leaders have to go through some, don't listen, Arav, if you're listening, some shit.
Yeah.
Right? We got to learn like what not to do, what to do, where we messed up before. And like, I think Colibri, not that anything has to be perfect, but was such a different intention because you wanted to also make sure that you had balance and take care of yourself while being of service.
Absolutely. And then, yeah, like also just making sure that as part of the consciousness, kind of going back to your earlier point of the race and who finishes and are we ever going to finish? There is no ideal version of ourselves. We're never going to get there. Ever. And so that part and I was never going to be crafted into this other person. And so if I didn't start loving who I was and taking care of myself in whatever I did, then I was only going to do a disservice to myself. And like the one thing you made me realize is that I'm human enough. And so I just had to honor my own humanity. And if I did that, then I could connect with other people's humanity. Right. And so I think that's what really inspired that effort was, these are people here, like they lost their homes and now, like they had discernment, they had tastes, they had a home full of things that they had picked, just like we have the luxury of the fortune for those who do have homes, like to select items that we, put in it. And now it's gone. And now they're just supposed to ask for, just receive and say thank you to whatever's given to them. Like, where's the dignity? Where's the respect? And that, like, just the human to human moment of all of that is what really inspired that whole project.
And it first started with you giving that level of compassion and understanding and empathy to yourself. Like, I want to talk about the bells for a minute because I'm in Michigan, you're in LA, right? And so the fires happened. And I think I was checking in with you, like, what can I do to help? Because you feel so powerless when you're watching it on the news. And you sent me a video of this woman who had a bell collection of all the places she had traveled. And they were gone. So tell me a little bit about that story.
Yeah. So one of the first, one of the first households that we helped was the Washington household. And we got the great pleasure of meeting Julie Washington first. And, we were packing bags then out of Lincoln Heights in LA and doing these care packages and, and beautiful Dagny Dover suitcases that they donated. And, she came to pick it up and, oh my God, Judy was like gorgeous, impeccably dressed and taking this suitcase. And she was just, we were just connecting and sharing about that night. Cause so much of the work was not just the items we gave, but to let them, talk and cry and, just process their grief and walk alongside them for a little bit. And, she was just sharing about how they lost, 4 or 5 generational homes. The exact specifics are leaving me now, but it was multiple generational homes. And one of the homes was her mom's. And her mom, and her brother, and I became really close to Leon and to her mom. And her mom had collected bells from every city she had ever gone to. And so like that, there was no one was, that wasn't what was the first thing on people's mind when they were donating. And so but the sparks of joy that make you feel human and make yourself feel like you again are so important. And so I was sharing that with you, and Robin, being Robin, was like, let's same thought I had, which I told Judy, was like, let's get you those bells. And so Robin found 32
I think it was
bells
32,
from all parts of the world. And, it was amazing. And I got, the great joy of delivering them to Leon, who delivered it to his mom, and the tears. She bought a special display case that day. And all you hear in the video is my bells, my bells.
And that was my gift and benefit of knowing you in your light, because I got to be of service. And when you sent me that video, and she was just
beside herself. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. It was so beautiful. So thank you, Shilpa, because I got to do something because of you in a situation where I felt really powerless. And I can buy 32 bells. Yeah. And that was so cute. I found them on eBay, and something happened with the transaction. I can't remember. And it almost looked like on their end, they might have thought it was fraudulent. I can't remember the exact details of it, but something was weird. I think the shipping was super high, and eBay was I don't know, whatever. And I like wrote the person and was like, you cannot sell these bells to anyone else. Like, this is what I'm doing it for. And I thought they're probably thinking like, she's full of it or whatever. And the person wrote me back and was like, girl, we're going to get these bells. Pasadena, like, oh, I remember the shipping address was like super weird.
Complicated.
Yes. And they were like, I think they canceled my order because they were like, this isn't even a real address.
Yeah.
And they were like, don't worry, we're going to relist it. And like, we got her those bells. And one of them was from Detroit, Michigan. Like, I didn't even know they made bells for Detroit.
I think it was the first one we opened too in the box.
So yeah, I love that story. So Shilpa, tell me, like, as you started to like connect to your worth and kind of climb up or out of the one down position, what did you start to believe, or what was different about your belief system in order to shift out of that?
You helped me. Like, I think one of the first big realizations was definitely that I was in my integrity. Right. And so, and if I was okay with myself, even if the feedback was telling me otherwise, that I had to start listening to me again. And, like that meant that I needed to remove myself from any situation that was keeping me there. And that was probably the bulk of the work, was to try to redefine what that meant for me. If you put yourself in the one down across the board, you got to start figuring out how you change your circumstances. And so it was something I would do to myself. But it was also, something I needed to undo myself. With that dawning self-worth, I think I'm beginning to like really even, I still grow in the self-love and I have work to do there. Right. And there's moments of lapse, but I really do, I started to value myself. And so then, okay, now if you start to value yourself, you have to change your circumstances and your condition. And so I started to do that, and that changed that nervous system energy, and all of those voices were quiet, and I was so much more peaceful. And so it was like, oh, okay, like, yeah, my body's telling me spiritually and physically and emotionally that what I was doing wasn't serving myself, and I needed to do something different. And so then I was able to as a result, I was able to, like, you helped me form that connection again to myself. Right. And so that connection had been severed or broken, or I hadn't been listening to it. And so then I was like, oh, I actually have myself on board for myself. And then anytime I would forget that or need help, you would say, like, I'm on board to remind you of this too. And so it was, I feel bad about saying this because I know everyone on this podcast wants to have this too with you. And I hope that we can multiply you exponentially so that can happen. But it also gave me the strength to do it because there was someone holding my hand through it. I wasn't alone. And there was someone who saw me and reminded me that they saw me. Like really me, the inside of me. And that gave me the strength to keep taking more steps.
I have the coolest freaking job on the planet. It's just official. So,
and because you're really, really fantastic and born to do this. Yeah. So those go hand in hand. You made this life. And I think that was the thing. Like, you would share your own stories about how you struggle with this and struggle with it too. And again, it better to be, I think it was done than perfect, or better to be good than perfect. Like all of those kinds of things. Like, we were never going to reach perfection. So like, you're going to fall down, and the whole thing is like harmony, disharmony, repair. Like, just keep going back again and try. Like, you have an opportunity to level up with all these mistakes. There's a reason why we make them. And so it was just took the pressure off of all of that too.
Shilpa, like what I'm hearing is it's like you took the brave risk of being kind to yourself. Like which
100%.
when pressure is like one of your guiding lights and north stars, it's like really hard to manage pressure and be kind to yourself when you don't trust yourself and you don't have like self-compassion on board. But what you were sharing reminded me of like that piece around discernment. Like when we realize like, wait a minute, I don't want to be in this one down. And if I stay in this one down, I stay a smaller version of me. This
Yeah.
discernment comes in around like, well, who's benefiting from me keeping me in the one down? So tell me a little bit about like how your relationships shifted when you elected yourself to take yourself out of that one down position.
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting. Some relationships, like to be frank, weren't serving me and shouldn't be in my life anymore, right? So those you have to face with a lot of courage and love for yourself. And it doesn't undo what you had or where you were. It's just not serving you for the future or even for the present. And so, some of those choices had to be made. And then other relationships got richer because I have so many dear friends. I'm so blessed. And they didn't, I mean, it's kind of an off-putting energy when someone you care about is putting themselves down, it was actually like really freeing, I think, for them and for me, because it was no longer performative, right? Like it became more authentic and real. And, it changed how we communicated. And going back to boundaries, it just became like, okay, like these are safe topics for us. This is triggering to me. This is not triggering. I was telling you recently on a, family trip where, before, like my poor mom she would trigger me all the time. Of course, she's your mom, right? And so like I would react, as my teenager and get upset for like some wounds I had. And, and then we put up boundaries and said, okay, like these are safe topics. These are things, you can talk about. Here are like a family deck of cards to like get deeper with each other because you're going on this trip to connect, right? Like you suggested those cards and we pulled those out. And, and there was only one time, which is unheard of for us, one time in 7-8 days of traveling that we had a little bit of tension. And when I looked back at what caused it, it was because I crossed my own boundary. I shared something that wasn't safe, that was deeply triggering for my inner child. She reacted the way that she reacts, which I know how she's going to react, right? So I almost set her up for failure. And I was able to pull back and be like, okay, this is that moment, Shilpa. I was able to recognize that this was an unsafe topic. You put yourself in the situation. You have opportunity now. Shilpa, you have a choice. This is a choice that you were forced to make as a child, but it's your choice now. And your choice is to sit in this discomfort that you have, in fact, created the circumstances for, or go back to your goal, which is define that we wanted to connect more deeply and apologize and get over it, repair this so that you can continue to have a great trip together. And I chose the latter. Yeah.
Proud life coach moment. Listen to that. I mean, so what you're saying though, is that boundaries actually have made things smoother in your close relationships. It's allowed you to do that, connect and protect.
100%. It took practice.
Yeah.
It didn't happen right away. And there are moments where, like I think daughters and their mothers, it's like one of those relationships. And so I had moments where I was like, this is never going to work. Like, I'm never gonna, she's always going to be in the do not contact at the moment. Not that I never contacted her, but like, don't share anything. Don't be authentic, keep it at surface level. And it's totally changed.
And that makes me so happy because you love her and she loves you. And
you should talk about the tattoo story because I was terrified. I'm 47 years old and I was terrified.
Okay, so can you tell it? Because I think you're going to do a better job. But I love,
Yeah.
I love how it even came to be too, like what you chose, and if you want to go into that, but that's up to you.
Well, I mean, and we can talk about the actual symbolism, but something that was important to me to mark all this transformation and ascension, and and it was through lots of various different means of discovery, and I ended up getting this incredible tattoo on my back, and Robin was part of the whole journey because it was just such more beautiful that way to share it, and before my trip, I was like, Robin, I can't hide my back if I'm with her for 7 days.
Tattoo on your back. You're not going to be able to have that.
I know. And she's like, and then Robin's like, she took a deep breath and she's like, okay. And then she asked the hard question, which I needed to hear is like, how authentic are you being to yourself if you're lying to your mom about this thing or trying to hide it? Or what else are you hiding about yourself? And I was like, okay, I'm going to brave this thing. And so the first day we were together, I went into the kitchen and because of the boundaries, because of what, like the triggering, the patterns, I was like, okay, what she's scared of here is I'm protesting, rebelling, I'm being a teenager. I'm not going to follow, the Indian way, like all those things. And so I just said it. I said, Mom, this is something deeply personal to me. It means a lot. It's not because I'm trying to hurt you. I love you and I really want this for myself. It's not me protesting. It's not me rebelling. I threw her a bone for her Indianness. Like I was like, I've been married 20 years. My husband likes it. Like I'm good there. Like, don't worry. I'm not messing up my marriage. That's what she needs to calm her nervous system. And then I was like, but I got a tattoo and I really love it. And I want to share it with you. And she was like, okay. And I was floored.
Well, because your teenager was not in that whatsoever. Like you honored her and you also told your truth. And how did she respond?
She's like, it's not for me, but I'm happy that you're happy. And thank you for telling me and sharing it. And yeah, and that was it. And it became like a non-issue. That I had made a huge issue. Like literally I've seen her 4 or 5 times since I got it. And every time I wore like a, high backed t-shirt, just because I didn't want to go there. I was terrified.
And yet it did mean so much to you. And you put so much thought and intention in choosing it and selecting the artist. And,
it took months.
Hiding it would be hiding your authenticity.
Which is what she's like, how are you ever going to get deeper? Like, how are you going to connect more with someone you deeply care about by hiding yourself? And you have to be brave here. And and then there are other times where you're like, okay, is that by your boundaries? Your boundaries is to protect yourself. So don't share that. Like both can be true.
Yeah, absolutely. Both can be true. But
as long as you're in your integrity.
Sure. And what feels kinder to you? Because it's a lot of work it takes you back into your past of walking on eggshells around her and only presenting things that she would approve of.
Right.
And that wasn't kind to do to that teenager. It was kind to go, hey, be yourself. And it can be okay. And she could have been upset and it could have been okay, but somehow the reaction wasn't what you probably expected.
No, I approached it with love. Yeah, I was shocked.
Yeah.
But everyone else in my family, like, my kids, my husband, they're like, yeah. Right? Because they don't see the version I see of my mom as a teenager.
Yeah.
Right? Like that's what I see. That's not their experience of her. Right? Because we trigger each other. And so it kind of just removed that element, which was so beautiful.
I love it. So Shilpa, I know so much of your journey, but I know you mentioned that like some people couldn't kind of go with you and you had to let go of some relationships. And of course, I never want to package that in like an aha moment or like, I just let them go and I didn't care. Like there was grief around that. There was indecision, but there was also like anger. I mean, part of why like our teenager comes out is because we're angry, and anger is a sign that I need to protect myself. And that part comes out to protect. So tell me a little bit about like what you learned as far as like differentiating a grudge and a boundary.
Yes.
in some of those relationships?
Yeah, I've been, I've been someone throughout my life. So I've had boundaries, but not healthy ones. And the boundary always came in the form of a grudge, right? So if someone wronged me, they were dead to me. Like and it would be like black or white, like because it would take a lot for me to say that. They'd have to wrong me multiple times in order for me to get to that level. And then once I was at that level, like, forget it. Like it was a closed door forever, right? Like I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want any nuances for it. And so I am just, this is where I reached a full circle aha moment this year. Even with the work I started a year ago with boundaries, and I had a moment where I was like, oh, grudges they're not servicing me either. And there's repair there, and there's responsibility and accountability that I have to own. And so I was able to actually, even though they deserve not to be in my life because of the pain they have caused, and I have to honor myself, which is what I thought I was doing through a grudge. The grudge was carrying this anger and pain that was still present. So I forgave them. And then I set a boundary. And I said, okay, they're not in my life. They're not invited anymore. But I do forgive them for that pain. And I do forgive myself for whatever I did to trigger them to, or whatever pain I inflicted. And holding a grudge does inflict pain as well. And so I was able to have this like conversation with myself, and it brought, like, it opened floodgates of love, of good memories and good times we've shared as well, which I also was depriving myself of, and I needed that. And then I was like, okay, but you know what? Like, I'm in your corner, Shilpa, so I can also protect you and put a boundary there and make sure that doesn't happen to you. Which was like such an amazing moment.
Yeah, I think that a grudge is almost like a stuck place of grief. And like, I haven't talked about the map of consciousness yet on the show, but like, it's an amazing tool. And on the map of consciousness, it says that blame is destructive every time. It's a form of the energy of guilt. Like, you've done something wrong or they've done something wrong. And that means that we stay in victim. And to me, victim doesn't mean, of course, my cat is hopping in here. He loves to make an appearance. But it doesn't mean that you're not victimized, right? Because that's kind of what your nervous system is alerting you to. Like, I don't want to be in the one down. I don't want to be treated this way. But when we stay in victim, we stay disempowered, which disempowered is that form of the one down.
Right.
And so what you were saying was your ability to step into that grieving experience and step out of the place of victim allowed you to move through it and get to a place of acceptance, which is nothing's all bad or all good or black and white.
Yeah.
That there's a middle, and that we can still use the discernment of like, but how emotionally safe is it for me in the way that I know myself now?
Right. And honestly, like, this is so funny. Like, you're like, oh, I start with boundaries. I always start with boundaries. And I didn't get it, Robin, still, like, until this year.
Yeah.
Until that realization, because I was like, oh, because the boundaries are all about honoring yourself and allowing yourself to have all the emotions. And I was very stuck, right? And so, like, I had to protect myself, and I've learned to do that in a healthy way. And like, just to make sure that I continue to do that. And once you feel that, you can't go back.
No, it's my favorite saying. Like, once you wake up, you can't go back to sleep. Like, I think you can just learn to trust that consciousness that comes on board, that it doesn't turn back off.
Yeah.
And I love that, like what you were describing in the activated part of you, that it was kind of in or out, like you're in or you're dead to me. That's what I love about the boundary pyramid, is that it's not two categories. You're in or you're out. There's these other ones that allow us to stay in connection, but in a way that feels safe for us.
Right. And being in meant you got like everything. Like, I would just like over the top deliver. But that also wasn't kind to myself, right? So there's boundaries the other way too, where you're like, I don't need to share everything. I recently went to like just kind of an event, and I saw some people that I've shared interests. They're in my share interest category, and I don't go that deep with them. And immediately one of them started sharing really, really personal things. Like it was like, hello, and this is what I'm going through. And I was like, whoa, I don't need, and I hope you're not like, you don't need to be telling me. But I was like, and then I was like, wow, this woman needs boundaries. She's in such a desperate place for connection. And I like, my heart went out to her. I gave her a big hug, but I was also like, this is not mine, so I also know that I'm like Robin jokes, like it's not my rescue mission, right? Like to do it. But,
you did have that moment where we were like, I think you're done with rescue mission.
But I was awake and I was able to see it. And I also recognized myself in her.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, that's what I did for so long.
Yeah. And it allows for self-compassion and compassion for other people. But I think like everything you're saying is that boundaries end up being the greatest form of self-care. And I know self-care has been something we've talked about, repeatedly because we're all human. But what I know is you've built and led so much in your life, a brand, a nonprofit, a family, just to name a few. What boundaries have become essential in order to give without losing yourself again? Because it is a practice that we have to show up to throughout our life.
Yes. And I will add one thing that even helped me get there, was because of the boundary work, I wanted to be with myself.
Yes, right. That is the coolest part.
I didn't want to before because it was noisy as hell. And it was like, the way I would talk to myself was awful, right? Like, and so once I wanted to be with myself, I was like, oh, okay, like I can care for this person because I love this person, which sounds very meta, but like, I was like, oh, okay. Like, I was kind of trying that out. I was like, okay, like, what does this person need? Like, I never thought about those things, right? Like, I mean, and here's like a very trite example, but like, I've been trying to get my husband to use Google Calendar for like 15 years. Yeah. And he's like, I just don't do it. I don't do that stuff. And finally, I had a different conversation with him. I was like, you need me to do X, Y, and Z. And I need you to use the calendar. Like I need it. It gives me structure that I need. And you love me. And I know you can do it. And now he like is diligent in putting everything in.
Yeah. And finally, you didn't control him. You asked from a place of vulnerability.
Yep, exactly. And now I give myself, breaks. I ask for what I need. I'm also honoring promises to myself, like, which is also a form of self-care. Like if I keep disappointing myself, how can I trust myself? This is new to me. I'm learning the follow through matters to myself to be in my integrity, and how I do that. So I'm doing so many things. I've even structuring my day where I like with boundaries. Like someone asked me, Katia actually was like, oh, I really want to go on a hike. And I was like, okay, I can do it on Fridays. Yeah. Because that's if for me to honor my week, and I'm doing a lot of writing, Friday's my day for that. I would love to see you on a Friday.
Yeah. And we talked about, it doesn't have to be like, let's meet for lunch. Let's meet for lunch. Like, let's meet for a hike.
Yeah. And that's a boundary, right? Like that's the place, because you recognize, you're like, okay, that's the place I show up the best, same as. And then you use it as a superpower. Like, so any situation, okay, if we're hanging out, we're dressed up, or we're at a really fancy dinner, maybe that's not my highest, healthiest self because there's other noise. And not that I don't like those things, but like maybe if the goal again is connection, where is the best place and how is the best way to show up for that connection?
So I'm such a fan of being intentional, and you're articulating that so beautifully. And one thing I want to share with you, Shilpa, and I don't know that everybody listening knows this because I'm about to go into parts of self-work on the podcast, but when I bring clients through parts of self-work, I have you guys find pictures of yourself when you're a kid and a teenager, and I have you send it to me. And as weird as it is, like I look at it and I get energy, but yours will like forever live with me. Because people might be listening to this like while they're driving and not watching it, but Shilpa has like the biggest, most beautiful smile. It is just like who you are. And like as a little girl, you had like the biggest, most beautiful smile. And you sent me this picture of you that like I'll never get out of my head of like this really content, beautiful, like you were in the middle of a laugh and it's just like so beautiful. And within our work, like she was a big part of you, of it being relevant to take care of yourself differently. Because so often, like we'll go to our family of origin or our parents, and by no fault of their own, they're as conscious and aware as they are. And we'll go back trying to get them to be the parent that little girl needed.
Yeah.
Instead of realizing that we can be the mom or the dad that little girl always needed. And your parents are amazing. It's just that like for a lot of us, we needed emotionally attuned parents. And 70s, 60s prior to that, like that just wasn't something that was available. Like there wasn't a roadmap of how to emotionally attune to your children.
I mean, their number one thing was to survive.
Yeah.
Like they didn't have necessarily that luxury or the tools to do those things.
Right. So they did the best they could. But now you have the tools and you can shift out of survival. And I've witnessed you become the mom to that little girl with that vibrant smile and energy.
And sometimes Shilpy just needs a hot fudge sundae. A lot of...
So when I came out to LA, the last time I saw Shilpa, I brought her inner child some hot fudge from this very like well-known place in Detroit. And I just went and it's ridiculous. I mean, wasn't that good hot fudge?
Such good fudge.
Okay. Saunders in Michigan is like next level, but tell them how your inner child eats a sundae.
So she hates when the fudge gets cold. So when they pour it over the ice cream. So I always have two bowls, one with the ice cream, one with the hot fudge. Then you get the perfect temperature when it mixes every time.
I mean, is that not the best practice? Always innovative you've been.
When my kids see me with the two bowls out, they're like, oh, Mama's having a session. We're going to go over there.
And I think
they know.
Mine is like old school Kraft macaroni and cheese. Like if you see me in the grocery store with a box of that, like just go the other direction.
Yeah.
Like I'm in it, but I love it. So I love that hack. And it's so true because it melts the ice cream.
It does.
Okay.
And then it makes the fudge cold. Neither are ideal.
No, we don't want that. Yeah. So, okay. I wanted to ask you a few questions that I ask everybody.
Yes. Because, oh my goodness, which I did not prepare for.
That's okay. Yes. That's okay. So we'll do the best, and they don't have to be long answers, whatever is true for you. But I like to ask everybody these questions because it just shows like the individuality of everybody.
Yeah. So and this will be true rapid fire.
This is true rapid fire.
Off the cuff.
Right. Here we go. Okay. Number one. Are you ready?
Yes.
Tell us about a belief that you've had about yourself that you've had to unlearn.
That I'm not worthy.
And look at you moved past that belief, and look at how many people have benefited already, including yourself and your family. And like that's the beauty of shifting out of the one down.
Yeah. And I say that like not to get people's like empathy or pity or like, wow, how sad. It's just, I didn't realize it felt like Inception, Robin. Like it was so deeply, I don't even know what put it there. And when I unpacked everything, I was like, oh, like, this is all coming from, I'm not enough, but I am enough. I can undo this.
Yeah.
Of course I'm worthy.
Can you imagine?
But it did take some work.
Yeah. That story comes from the biggest lie we ever told ourselves. And it's something I think that's relatable to all people. I think we all have some sort of shame or not enough wound buried in us somewhere. So tell me a daily boundary or practice that helps you feel grounded.
This is, to be quite honest, something I have to work on more.
Mm.
But I do. I am starting to just like today was a crazy morning, and I could have just rushed into the next thing, which I was already late for. And I honored myself by saying, you know what? After the craziness of the morning, you need 30 minutes to just sit. And so I drank my cup of coffee outside, and I was like, it doesn't matter what you're late for. Like, you can't make it through the rest of this day. Your capacity is spent. Just getting 3 kids out of the house. And that's okay. I think that's been the other part, is like, just maybe that's what it is. It's recognizing I only have a certain amount of capacity.
Yeah. Yeah. And that would be the opposite of overfunctioning. Right.
And being okay with that.
Yeah. That you
and reminding myself of that every day.
Okay. Look at perfect. Yeah. So what is one piece of advice that changed something for you in your life?
I think it's your advice. It's the same as like, just to enter and like, and like, you were able to show me that it wasn't, like just me putting myself in the one down. I'd also put myself in the one up. Like, like, pressure and hypervigilance leads to a lot of success. Right. And so, like, me going in and making anyone else feel like that is just as bad. Like, so being in my own integrity, I always tried to practice that and approach authentically. And I think those who know me can attest to that, especially professionally. But I did, I do think that in any situation that applies. And I love that advice. It goes with me everywhere.
Yeah, I love that advice too. What's one book that helped shift how you show up relationally, or just one book that really impacted you in your journey?
I've been on an autism understanding journey, and I read a book called Neurotribes, which is just about the history of neurodivergence, specifically applies to autism. And I think this journey and learning about it through my son as well, like, has made me realize that people do biologically, which is maybe obvious, we all do see the world differently. And so there is no one advice, there is no one playbook, and so to honor, like, to be truly a person who honors other people's differences and unique traits, and not letting those get in the way of our connection, which is, I think, one of the things we're all struggling right now in kind of this political and, climate, is that we're just unable to communicate with one another.
Shilpa, because I've witnessed some of your journey, like, I think your ability to lean into boundaries and slow down has allowed you to show up differently for your son that might need you a little bit differently. And I know I'm a working mom. I know you're a working mom. Like, there's always that mom guilt of like, I'm not doing enough, or I'm not prioritizing. So I think like another benefit of you having boundaries is that you're able to really show up for your youngest, Arav, who I love so much.
Who gives, and then the guilt goes away, right? So then you benefit yourself because you're not feeling guilt and shame. And, like, it helps all across the board.
Yeah. Awesome. Okay. So tell me something that you do now that your younger self would be so proud of you for.
Oh my God, everything. She would be, I mean, like, this life, this, like this, like having 3 kids, feeling fulfilled, having so many friends. She was very lonely, and so, like, just to, like, and that people they love us for us. Like, they love us for who we are.
Yeah.
Which is like the biggest thing.
And your beautiful authenticity and light has attracted so many amazing people because I got the amazing opportunity to come out to LA and do a workshop at your house and then do a retreat with your group of friends. And we have the most amazing WhatsApp group that goes on anytime somebody needs. So I know I got to see how much love you're surrounded with and how enough you are, and what you've attracted from your authenticity. I mean, your friends, some of them are my friends now.
And that's the thing I'm a giver. I'm a sharer. I always was as a little kid too. And so it's so nice to do that now freely without worrying also about being taken advantage of or not protecting myself. And, I think she would be really proud of that balance because she feels safe.
And you did such a great job. You have such a great life. And I've met your husband and your children and been in your home. And honestly, I can't wait to get back. I'm like, I got to get back and see Arav.
Yeah.
I want more of that chai that you made me when I was there.
It feels safe and whole. And of course, this is but it's also I think this is what I love is something that I had and I didn't appreciate, right? It's a constant meditation to be in the joy of one's life.
I love that. So Shilpa, thank you.
Of course.
Thank you for your honesty, your openness, your willingness to talk us and walk us through your story, and not just the polished version, but the real tender, evolving version that so many people I think will relate to and see in themselves. So to everyone listening, I hope this conversation reminded you that self-worth isn't something we earn. It's something we uncover when we stop abandoning ourselves. And boundaries are not selfish. They're not walls. And they are sacred structures that allow you to stay connected to yourself while being in relationship with others.
So they're bridges, as you call them.
They are bridges, for sure. You don't need to do more or prove more to be worthy of respect, rest, and protection. So if you're listening and you've been feeling stuck in the one down or caught in a cycle of overgiving and under receiving, this is your invitation straight from Shilpa and me to begin again, to start small, to make a different choice today than you did yesterday. And let's close with just a little breath and a reminder, because Shilpa did such a beautiful job of leading us and modeling that my worth is not up for negotiation. Boundaries are not rejection, they're reclamation. I belong to myself now. So thank you for growing with us, me and Shilpa. Shilpa, thank you so much. I just can't, words cannot express how much I love you, how proud I am of you. And I think that today's episode also shows that our trauma is healed through safe relationships.
100%. Yeah.
And that, gosh, I just think about where boundaries took me to be able to know you and people like you and to be able to hold a safe space while you're evolving. So thank you so much. I love you. And
I love you. And Robin, I know yes, I did this journey. I own that. That's the process I'm working on, but also thank you so much for holding my hand through it all. I really am just so grateful. You're a household name in this house. My kids feel it. My husband feels it. My marriage feels it. My parents feel it. It just reverberates beyond. Your work is just incredible. So that's why we hosted the retreat. That's why this podcast needs to grow and spread, because this kind of healing belongs to everyone. I'm on your mission too, to help do that. So it was an honor to be invited and to talk today. And thank you everyone who's listening. And please share it widely, because this is gold.
Yeah. Thank you, Shilpa. And you're so welcome. It's literally been one of the greatest honors, just knowing you and being a part of your story. So I know there are lots of things that are about to come from you, but will you just tell them where they can find you and kind of like stay connected to you for what Shilpa is going to do with this beautiful power that she's
Yes. I think most of it's on Instagram. So Shilpa R. Shah on Instagram, that's where I tend to share. And I'm working on a few projects that I'm excited about, and trying on new roles and challenging myself. So I'll post about them there when I'm ready to share them, when they're done from incubating.
So let's give Shilpa a follow, because there's going to be amazing things that you're going to continue to put out in the world. Thank you again. And I hope that Shilpa's story and my story are a beautiful invitation that if we can do it, anyone can do it. And that, my goodness, in a year or a year and a half, like that you've went through this level of transformation, like this work is really powerful. So if there's anybody that that might benefit from this episode, we would love it if you shared. And hopefully maybe you'll be on again in the future, because I have so many freaking episodes in my head that I feel like you could come back on. But thanks again, Shilpa. And I'll see everybody next week.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
That's it for today's episode. Thank you so much for being here and for doing this work. If this episode resonated with you, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Come connect with me over on TikTok at Robin Breckenridge or Instagram at Coach with Robin, where I share even more insights, tools, and conversations around boundaries, self-trust, relational healing, and so much more. And just a quick reminder, this podcast is for educational and personal growth purposes only. The insights and tools I share are based on my experience as a life and relationship coach and are meant for general guidance. Each person's story is unique, and the nuances of individual experiences can't always be addressed in this format. What's shared here may not be applicable to every situation, especially those involving abuse, oppression, severe mental illness, or systematic harm. If you or someone you know is in crisis, please seek support from a qualified mental health professional or emergency resources. Thank you for listening and for showing up for yourself in this way. Take care, and I'll see you next time.